begin. All right, everyone, welcome to your Future Leaders Today call. We think we're on episode 64. It might be 65. It might be 63. Alan was meant to keep track, but we didn't tell him, so he doesn't know. So there we go. Okay, we have a very light call today. We might have some more people joining us, but for now, it will just be us on here. Rich is having some technical difficulties with interwebbage at the minute. Richard Almeida says we're definitely on call 64, so that's good. At least we're generally there as well. Richard has gone for now, not a problem. So my name is Daniel. I work with Richard for these calls. We help people kind of bridge that gap between no idea of crypto to fully having your water wings, having some financial sovereign independence, and helping people get a small slice of the greatest transference of wealth we have ever seen. As this asset class of crypto rises and this magic internet money starts to materialize into things like paying off mortgages, getting mortgages, all forms of different DeFi that's out there. It's a very interesting space and time to be alive and watching it grow, I suppose. So we set up this particular call. This is a fairly open introduction call. So we can be free flow with it. We're always pretty free flow with these anyway. Everyone that's on these has been on a couple of them. All that I ask is you can keep your cameras on or off, doesn't matter, but just be aware with your microphone of background noise and things like that. But if it gets too loud from my perspective, I'll just click the little mute button. But you all look to be muted anyway, so it's cool. So just check, we've got Richard with us. Richard, you look pretty fluid on that second one. I'm guessing that's your phone. Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. No, you can. Okay, we've not got your mic on your new connection yet. I'm just going to stop your video on that one. And that should be good. Cool. Are you with us?
Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Cool. Rocking and rolling. And it's good to have Richard Almeida with us as well. You're not on a train this time.
No, I'm here. I'm all settled down today.
Always good.
On this all day.
Super duper. And we have Paul with us as well, who I think is in either Japan or America at the minute, but that is awesome. So let us get into it. Now, before, there's always a million things I can talk about, but I'm just going to come over to Richard just before we kind of kick it off. Was there anything in particular, Richard, you wanted to cover before we open it up to people that are in here? Because whilst you're doing that, I can also have a quick goosey around on this schedule ones. Or are you all good and you just want to crack on?
Yeah, I think we should just crack on. Really, I'm interested to know if anyone's got any particular questions. I think that'd be really cool.
Okay.
Just to think we said next time what we'll try and do is ahead of the time we'll put a proper spreadsheet together so people can actually ask questions, and we've got a better way to sort of manage them and see them ahead of time, basically. So I think that's a really good idea, and hope people would get value from that.
Yeah, I agree as well. So, well, Alan, let's we're going to pick on you first. I know you said you had something, and then for Louise, for Beth, for Tricia, Richard, and Paul and Andrea, everybody really. We're just going to keep it really open, and let's have a see where it kind of goes, see what topics want to come up, what any direct questions there are. But Alan, what was your question you pondered after you'd signed up?
Okay, it's asking you to gaze into your crystal ball, really. As someone who knows a lot about crypto.
He says you're going to move to Berkshire, Derbyshire.
Possibly.
Possibly. Go on.
How long do you expect the bull run to last? Basically, that's it. The alt season and the bull run. How long?
Cool. Before we do that, I'm just going to check with Beth and Louise in particular, because I think the others will know it. Put your hand up. In fact, everyone can. Give me a thumbs up if you absolutely know what a bull market is. Oh, good. All right. Okay. Opposite of a bull market.
Bear.
All right. That's good. I'm happy with that. And I'm
Yeah,
assuming we all
bull and what's called bear.
why it's called bull and why it's called bear. I do. Who else knows why it's called a bull market or a bear market? 10 points. Okay, 10 XRP. How about that? 10 Bitcoin.
Yes, please.
This isn't
Because
school.
bulls charge and bears hibernate.
There, because what? Sorry.
Because bulls charge and bears hibernate.
Because bulls charge and bears hibernate. That's not what I'm aware of, but I do like it. Richard, is that where you were going?
No, that makes sense as well. But I guess it's bulls go up and bears go down, like the ball,
Yeah.
basically. That's my understanding of it.
So my understanding is a bear bear down on things. When a bear attacks, it kind of rears and comes down. And when a bull attacks, it goes up. But I do like bulls charging and bears hibernating. That also has an interesting viewpoint to it as well. So no one got 10 free Bitcoin there. That was your one chance that I'll ever give. But I do respect the fact that Paul gave it a shot. So you get maybe like 10 Satoshis. How about that? When it's cheap enough to send them. Okay, so bear market, bull market. What else did Alan say? Alan said, how long will the bear market last and how long have we got in altcoins? So let's just double check. Who's going to give us a definition of altcoins?
Anything that's not a Bitcoin.
That is the legal. According to the Bitcoin police, that is a correct legal definition of an altcoin. But remember that all altcoins are not made even. I mean, the difference between Ethereum and the last altcoin that got made yesterday is a long way away. But the general definition is that. Okay, so to the question, how long is it going to last? I don't know. Next question. How long is it going to last? There's two schools of thought. The first school of thought is that we're in a standard cycle. Not many cam. I don't want to pull up for you. Just let me pull up a particular chart for you. Get rid of that. So standard cycles last about 4 years. I don't know why. Do I know why? I'm just searching my brain. Richard,
Triggered by the halving. Yeah, it's normally triggered by the Bitcoin halving. And then usually, it's about 3 or 4, 5 months after that, we start seeing proper bull market kick off. And usually this cycle, I mean, if it's going to be a traditional 4-year cycle, which is basically Bitcoin halving, Bitcoin starts to make some moves, Bitcoin drops, Ethereum takes over, then altcoin season starts, and then it kind of starts reversing back down. And it's usually around November to January is going to be the top of the usual cycle for altcoin season stroke Bitcoin. You know, the basic top of the bull market is usually somewhere between November and January. It kind of seems like it might be a little bit different this time round, but with this, like you were going to talk about the super cycle, because it's so different now with potentially so many institutions involved that weren't involved about 4 years ago. You know, just the basic adoption curve that we seem to be in at the moment. So I haven't seen that played out yet. Some people are still saying it. I know Dan Held from Kraken seems to be fairly convinced that we are on this new super cycle. Where
Is he a super cyclist?
He's a super cyclist, and he keeps pushing it out and saying that it won't drop like it did before. But I think if we study, you know, it's going to be led by Bitcoin. Bitcoin is basically, if the whole of crypto is currently sitting around about 2 trillion, Bitcoin is 1 trillion of that. So where it kind of wants to go, it can lead the pack basically. So and because most of the money at the moment is in Bitcoin, it's still going to pull the pack with it really.
I'm just trying to find a nice image that kind of shows it. Okay, this is probably the cleanest image. It's because everyone, I think I've pinned my videos. I think people will see that. Can people see that?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So, yeah, so as Rich is saying, like at some point between these peaks here, and you can see this one here, this is what, 2011 effectively. This one's 2014. This one's 2018. And this one here is, what's this, 2023. The time it takes to get to a peak keeps getting longer. And so based on how far these have grown, like whatever the algorithm is for this extension, they're saying it'll take 2051 to reach the next peak. And this one, this particular chart, no idea who made it, Josh Ranger, he's saying 2023. So the whole thing with the super cycle, like I said, there's people that truly believe that because we've got all these institutions in, because we've got, it's just a different market. Like we look back at that last peak. When was that last peak? 2018. Yeah, of course it was. So the whole, so much has changed. I mean, even in that space of time, what's the guy called? There's a couple of CEOs who in 2018 were on record as saying, if I find any of my employees trading Bitcoin, I'll fire them for stupidity. Pretty much verbatim, word for word, what he said. And last week or 2 weeks ago, he came out and said something like, you know, we want to be one of the leading people to have a Bitcoin hedge fund and trade ETFs, and basically suddenly pro Bitcoin. And then someone put these two tweets side by side to just show how much these huge influential players, be it because they've got tons of money or because they're just influential. Like Elon Musk can have no money, but if he says something on Twitter, Dogecoin shoots up to the moon. So that's influence without using money behind it. So
you're saying he's got no money.
He's saying what?
You're saying Elon Musk's got no money.
No, but I said even if he didn't, there's influence in two ways. You can buy influence and do a lot with money, but you can also have a lot of influence. You don't necessarily need money. That's my point.
Yeah. Okay.
So some of these people that are hedge fund managers have got influence because they have money and they can make big actions because they can move a few billion. But then they're also heavily respected in their industry. So what they say carries a lot of weight. And so in the space of 3 or 4 years, to have Visa on board, MasterCard on board, PayPal on board, big traditional hedge fund managers on board with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, a massive swing in 4 years, a huge swing in 4 years. And that's the narrative for this super cycle. That's the narrative that says the rules to the game have changed. So this whole 4-year thing isn't going to play out anymore because there's so much buying pressure that anybody right now would snap up. I mean, what did Bitcoin fall to the other day? 50? Did it break 50? I can't remember.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Did it break it much though?
Yeah, it was pushing down. The next target at one point was 43, I think. Remember rightly? It seems like a bloody long time ago now, doesn't it?
It does. It was literally a week ago. But even at 40, I mean, that shows you that because Bitcoin does lead the pack, and wherever the support is for Bitcoin, pretty much when Bitcoin starts to settle out after a big drop, everything else usually settles out with it. So to say we had a drop down, let's have a look at 30-day. Yeah, so we were at basically 65. I mean, look at this, 14th of April, 65 grand. 23rd, 9 days later, we're touching, what's that, 49. And a couple of days later, to 47 and a half. But I mean, it's only down at this space here for just over a day. Yeah. And then it's already popping back up. So that tells me that there's just so much support for buying, even in the upper 40,000 range. You know, we didn't get this market here as 45, so it's not even got close to 45. So we just dipped under 50. But that just goes to show how much support there is at this sort of area. Take this off. There we go.
I'm just translating that to pounds because I always look at it in pounds.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I generally say to people, switch everything over to dollars, only because every video you see is in dollars. Everyone talks in dollars. I don't know a single YouTuber that talks in pounds. And so it's just easier in dollars. And the only time I care about pounds is when I'm taking money out. Other than that, my whole brain thinks in dollars, and it makes reading cryptocurrency news easier. Because otherwise someone was like, oh, what did someone say the other day? When I got a friend that wants to sell, when Ripple gets to 1, I'm going to sell. I was like, it's already at 127. And he's like, no, I talk in pounds. So it's just, it can be confusing like that. So, Alan, the answer to all that is probably as clear as you're going to get from this. You've got the two schools. One school says that in this year, we'll have peaked. And it's like spring and summer. It's easier to identify peak spring and peak summer than it is to identify when spring turns into summer, because this is a much more blended gap. So the question is, when's the peak? It's like when they look at things that decay and things that are radioactive, they talk about its half-life. We don't know how long until it's gone, but we know when it's reached its half-life, it's max peak. So at some point this year, we'll have a max peak, and then we'll start to drop. Or you've got this Dan Held super cyclist view that everything's elongated, and we may never drop down to the sort of levels that we were looking at. Does that answer your question?
It helps. It helps.
Or do you want me to
Obviously,
say something like December the 12th, 10 past 2?
Basically, I want you to be Nostradamus.
Do you know what? I'm going to be Nostradamus then. Like, I think a better question is, am I a super cyclist or am I a 4-yearist? I've never really given myself an answer on that. I am prepared to drop. Like, I'm prepared for that. But is that my opinion? I'm actually probably going, I'm going to say no. I think it's more super. I do think we'll have a drop, because I mean, the other day we had a 35% drop. You know, that's still massive. We had a 50% drop in March last year. So, but there's an old meme that says, it's got a guy, I'm not going to show you, he's got a guy on the moon looking. He's like, so you're saying it was always a bull market? And there's a guy behind him with a gun, and it says always. Basically meaning that even that chart I showed you earlier, this one. So what we're looking at there is 4 cycles, yeah? But if I'm to draw a straight line, that's a bull market. The whole thing is one big bull market, but it's broken up with some smaller cycles that have peaks, that have a peak and a drop. But this drop here is substantially higher than this drop. And whenever you get higher lows, you're going up. So I probably take more of this view that from wherever we are here, where are we at? 2021. So we're somewhere here. Obviously, this chart's not played out. Let's look at the plan B one. I probably take the view that we're Bitcoin plan B. I don't know how accurate, what time this one's on till. Open image in new tab. But I probably take the view. When's that? 2020. Yeah, so I probably take more of this view that there's going to be a time we're going to peak. And I think that peak will be in the next 12 months. But I'm not really concerned about another big drop. I think everything will be elongated. I do think it will be something more like this. I think the time between the peaks will take longer. And the reason I think that, if I'm honest, is because I think the rules of the game have changed. I think there's way more noise, but I do think institutions will want, especially if they can make it happen or control it, they'll be quite happy to have a dip because it just allows them to get more in. I don't think this cycle right now is the retail cycle. That means people on the streets. This cycle that we're in, this period, is about institutions. And when all the institutions have happily grabbed whatever they want to grab, then they'll start offering it to pensions. Then things will start to change. The narrative will start to change, and people on the streets will feel safe. And then they'll be like, okay, now I'll go and buy my tiny little bit of Bitcoin. Now it's at 150K, which is why less than half percent of the world's planet have a Bitcoin wallet. You know, we're so early, you can't even grasp it. So that's my view. I do think it'll be elongated. I do think it's about institutions, and I think there'll still be fear, generic fear of crypto for a good couple of years. I think central banks will create their CDBCs, and I think they'll be seen in this positive light before crypto gets seen in a positive light. That's my view. Richard, do you want to put your 2 pence on it? Are you a super cyclist or a 4-yearist?
I'm just trying to prepare as best I can for either eventuality, I think.
Boo!
Got to hedge your bets. You got to hedge your bets. I think there's an argument for both. I think the 4-year cycle is so. If you look at the stock to flow model you showed, it's so nailed on. But what it shows, if there's one which is literally just a block going on, that's not the one. It's got a couple of different models, but there's one where it's just literally like right angles going up. And
this one.
It's not. It might be that one. I can't see on the screen from it, but
Right angle. This is the stock to flow model 2.
Yeah.
Okay, he made a second one.
Yeah. That's the one with the other assets on. I mean, that's fine. Just click on that one, yeah. But you can see, like, that model, I mean, it can't really follow that much more. And all you've got in there, in that model there, is the different, you know, it's literally, as you say, it's a line going up there. And where those peaks, where it peaks out of the line, those peaks out of the line are things like sentiment going crazy, bigger sales adoption, greed, all these different things. And that's when it peaks outside of that model. Now, it's never going to follow that right angle there. But those things are the things that really influence the market. And have we got those things now? Massively. Will people sell Bitcoin when it gets to 80K, 90K, 100K? Yeah, they will. Will it drop because of that? Yeah, but it's going to pick back up again. But I think, you know, it is massively about the institutions coming in. But I think what's different this time to a degree is that we have got some retail investors that are coming in and they're interested in NFTs. They're interested in Dogecoin. They're interested in all these things that were kind of here last bull run, but they weren't in the same way. And what they're going to create once alt season is over, because alt season, it's usually 40 days, right? 40 days. When alt season kicks off, when it peaks and when it goes, it's normally 40 days. And when that happens and everyone starts going back into, you know, selling them either into dollars or Bitcoin, all these people that have come in on a retail side on sort of with Dogecoin or whatever it is, will understand what they should have done. They'll either exit and think it was a scam, or they will sort of understand that, like we did last time round, is like, oh, you need to take action throughout this cycle here. So and that in itself, I think, could prop up to a certain degree this longer cycle. So it's still to be decided. But I think, you know, there's so many people we sort of know that have just got useless bags of shitcoins that you just hold on to. I mean, even you know, even bigger coins, they go so high and they drop so low. I think this model kind of shows Bitcoin is going to get to 288,000. this cycle.
Is that what this marker is here? Because I mean, that's got to be close to 500,000 as well. It's between what? It's way above 2. If that's 100, that's 5.
I think this one model, this one here is the stock to flow against other assets. So it measures against other assets and other things you can invest in, which is slightly more bullish, I think, because it shows that people will come out of more traditional stocks and shares, different investments, and they'll go into Bitcoin. So it's putting Bitcoin against other assets, and it kind of shows what market sentiment does to people, where they'll go, well, I'm not going to invest in that anymore, but I'm going to invest in Bitcoin. And I think that top is 288,000. There's another one which is like 130, 140, I forget. So anyway, it's going to be somewhere in that region between 140 and 288,000. I think it will be around about 200,000. But you can't tell me at that point all these institutions that have bought in aren't going to take some profits, because they've bought Bitcoin sub 20, sub 30, sub 20 grand. So that they can turn a massive profit for their hedge funds, their shareholders, they're going to do that. So, and as you said, I think, I can't remember what it was. I mean, in March when was it? Some point last year, the start of last year, Bitcoin was like, it was not even 5 grand. I mean, think about that. Think about that in the space of a year. But it had got up from a top of 20k and it went down to 3k at one point. So, when you say that's about 70-odd% correction, 70-odd% correction from the top potentially of 280 grand, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna really hurt everyone. So, but as you show, line just goes up, line goes up. So it depends what your goals are, isn't it, really? And I think you've got to try and realize what those are and apply that to what you kind of know in terms of the super cycle or the 4-year cycle, and just try and plan for it, really.
I've got a friend who has invested, and he's very cleanly and clearly said to himself, it's a 6-year plan. So 6 years, he is not interested in this conversation. But he'll talk about it, but none of this impacts his decision. He's wavering, he's in, and he's looked at the market enough and gone, I'm in to Bitcoin and Ethereum predominantly, like 80% Bitcoin, Ethereum, 70% for 6 years. And so that means that whether we're in a super cycle or not, he's willing to ride it. And there's tons of maths. I watched one from Crypto Daily the other day. I was going to share it. And he challenged the myths of buy the dip. And there's all sorts of stats on this where like someone buys the absolute bottom, sells at the absolute top of every cycle. And they call that person like Susan, like Safety Susan or something. They've got one person who just buys at the top and sells at the bottom, which is obviously silly. And then you've got another person who buys consistently once a day, every month for 3 years. So one person's trading bottom to top, one person's buying consistently. And the difference was something, and they put, let's just say 20 grand in. The difference was like the person that traded the absolute best, perfectly timing bottom and top, made something like 400k. And like Safety Sharon, who just bought once a month, every single month, made 1.2 million. And didn't have to think about the top and the bottom. And so my friend that's doing the whole 6-year thing, he'll probably end up with equal to, let's say, me or to Richard or someone putting some time into it, maybe even more. But I'll tell you what he hasn't done, spent hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of time reading and researching and lying in bed, shutting their eyes, thinking about yield farming and staking. I guarantee you for 6 years, this particular friend of mine did not have that on his mind as the last thought before he fell asleep. Speaking from realization last night that when I shut my eyes, I think about crypto. And I accepted that last night. My name's Daniel, and I am a crypto alcoholic.
You're not thinking about Christina?
Nope, crypto. But it starts with a cr. It starts with a cr. So like, sort of, maybe. I'm loosely, I'm sorry, Christina, I do love you. I know you're up there. She's above me, not in heaven. So all right, let's move on from there.
Thank you very much, both of you.
I hope that was useful, though. It is a really simple but simple question, but unanswerable without multiple viewpoints anyway. I just want to say a really quick hello as well to Priyesh, who's joined us. We have Noah, and we have Letitia as well with us also. Cool. So I've got some questions in the chat. This is just for those that have just joined us. This is an open call. We're just kind of throwing things around. We just covered effectively, when will the big fancy bulb cycle end? That's what that whole first 20 minutes was. So we've got a question here. It says, how do fees work? And how do I calculate to trade coins? And another one, which is, when is alt season? So just before we cover the fees, let's just make sure we're rounding off that first question. When is alt season? So if altcoins is everything other than Bitcoin, Richard shared, see if I can pull it up. I'm going to type the Bitcoin to alt season floor. See if I can get a picture. Basically, when Bitcoin gets particularly big, one could say that the ratio of Bitcoin to the rest of the market is high, also called Bitcoin dominance. So if the whole market is at 2 trillion and 1 trillion is Bitcoin, then you could say that Bitcoin's dominance is 50%. If the whole market is 2 trillion and Bitcoin is 1.5 of that 2 trillion, then Bitcoin's dominance is 75%. Bitcoin dominance chart. So the alt season begins traditionally, and all these have got exceptions. I don't know, these charts make sense. I'm just going to try and explain it to you. All of these, when Bitcoin gets really, really big, the money piles out of Bitcoin and gets sold into all the altcoins. As the altcoins rise, Bitcoin shrinks, which means the dominance of Bitcoin gets less. And there is a metric, and there's usually a line, I want to say it's at 0.7, something like that, that when Bitcoin's dominance drops below that line, that's a clear indicator we're in an alt season, because all the money's going into alts. And when alts gets too big, people start to sell back into Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin rises again. And this is the same as all the new money that's coming in. So Bitcoin traditionally has always held a particular dominance. And that's usually the marker for when we're in an alt season or not. My personal opinion is right now we're in an alt season. In fact, I'd absolutely say we're in an alt season right now. We're definitely not in a Bitcoin season. So I do think we're in an alt season. Here we go. Will this do? Let me just open this in a new tab. Just don't know what the rest of those. I'll open this up for people. Spotlight. Cool. So you can see there, percentage of total market cap. So what is this? I'm going to guess that the other lines down here are the altcoins for different years or something like that. But either way, do you see these peaks? These peaks occurred at different troughs. This peak here, this trough here. Yes, 70 came to mind. But then over the course, this is all 2017. But we can see here, whenever this was, January to July 2017, that it's dropped all the way down to 40%. Then look at this massive spike here when the dominance of altcoins shoots up. And that's going to be the 2017 alt market cycle, I would imagine. Just going to see if I can get you a better image. I don't know if you want to chuck any 2 pence into there, Richard.
I'm just looking at, I've just found a trading view chart that's live. Let's see if I can send that to you in the chat.
Cycle. I reckon if I use Google, it would give me the answer straight away.
There you go.
It's in the Zoom chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. So you can see all these sorts of indicators. They're nothing fancy. Go websites that give you them. So this is let's have a look, let's read it correctly. This is the market cap of BTC dominance. So currently it's at what, 46.55. So let's zoom. Can I zoom out from this?
And like you say, as soon as it drops below 50, because the market cap of the entire market currently is around about 2 trillion.
It would be really good to see this. Use this chart to predict alt season in the crypto market. It'd be really good to see cross with this where the alt season is, but either way, like a 50%, less than a 50% market cap for BTC would tell me that we're in an alt season, because usually Bitcoin massively dominates the total market cap. So before we go further and answer the other question, I just want to check with everyone, because we're just kind of throwing these words out. So I'm going to remove spotlight. Does that make enough sense for everyone here? Or if it doesn't make enough sense, someone kind of raise their hand if they're happy for me to just ask which bit's not clear. But if it's generally okay, I'll take silence as a positive in this instance.
Can I just ask a quick question, please, Daniel?
Sure thing.
Bitcoin dominance, is that not different to Bitcoin?
It's definitely different. Let me just have a think how to explain that. Do you mean, are you asking how is the price of Bitcoin different, or where is the relevancy to Bitcoin dominance?
I'm not really sure what I'm asking. I know that there's a different coin of like Bitcoin dominance, isn't there?
No. So when we say Bitcoin dominance, this has got nothing to do with a coin. So like you've got Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Satoshi Vision and Bitcoin and all of these different coins built on built on the Bitcoin network. Bitcoin dominance is the dominance, kind of using it as an adjective, of Bitcoin. So it's saying of Bitcoin, if the whole market is worth 2 trillion, and if Bitcoin's market cap is 1 trillion, then Bitcoin has a 50% dominance of the whole market.
Yeah, 50, I got it in the explanation of like using it as an adjective. On that chart that you're on, what's that 40? Can't see what you're on.
What's that? What? 40, sorry.
46.55.
That's the dominance. So 46.55%.
So because it's lower than 50% now, and the entire crypto market is worth 2 trillion, it means Bitcoin is less than 50% of the entire of all the other altcoins, basically. So that's what it means. It means if you say you've got 2 trillion market, one of that's Bitcoin, the other trillion is everything else. Once Bitcoin drops below 50%, it's shrunk, and the rest of the altcoins have grown.
Right. Yeah. I've come across a chart similar to this, and I thought it was like the measure of a separate kind of rip-off Bitcoin. So that makes a lot more sense that it's a percentage.
It could have been. So it definitely could have been another like rip-off coin. The thing to really look at is this is a chart that someone's made, and the minute something says it's an index chart, it's definitely not about one thing. Whenever you see the word index, just like in a book, the index is not the contents. It's kind of a snapshot of everything that's inside. Your other way of just looking at it in terms of numbers, if we look at Bitcoin right now, today, Bitcoin is worth 54 grand, and it has a market cap of just over 1 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Whereas if we look at all the coins, or total market cap, it should probably be on this page. Market cap 2.3 billion. So that means that Bitcoin is a little less than 50%.
Yeah.
And it probably is 46.53.
Yeah, Okay, that makes sense.
So it's just to answer that question, when is alt season? Again, we don't know when it is, but we know when it's not. And it's when Bitcoin has an 80% dominance, it's definitely not alt season, it's Bitcoin time. And when
Sorry.
go on.
I'll just posit something else. I've sent it you in Signal, Dan, but I can't send it anywhere else. But if you open Signal up, there's an image in there that I came across today. I can't remember where I've seen it, but it's really good. And it kind
I
of
don't
shows
have anything in Signal. Can you send it on WhatsApp?
okay, I shall do that.
I don't think your Signal sends if you're using your phone until you come off. I've had this before.
Do you think you can share these links in the group participant thing as well when you're showing them up, so we can? Maybe
Yeah, I'll
put
put them.
on our
I'm going to put them into the. It's from call today.
Pretty please, thank you.
If you let me share, Dan, I'll see if I can just share it.
Yeah, sure. 1 sec. That's way easier.
How do I open it?
Spotlight. Right, cool. You've got full permission.
Okay. Sec. So opened up. Just moving my screen out of the way. Everyone see that? It's not the best.
Yeah, I can see that.
Can anyone see that?
Yeah.
Was it a bit small?
It's good for me. Everyone else okay?
Anyone see that? So this basically says, where's my code? Yeah. Basically, you've got, this is kind of where the money flows. So it says basically, phase one, money flows, flow of money moves into Bitcoin causing price surges. Yeah. Then you have an overlap where money flows into Ethereum, but it struggles to keep up with Bitcoin. Ethereum goes back and forth with Bitcoin and starts outperforming it. Phase two, Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin, and we hear talk of the flippening. Now, I don't know about you, but that's all I've heard this last week is that Ethereum is going to flip Bitcoin for market cap potentially. Yeah.
Yep, I've heard that as well.
And then the phase overlap is money is flowing into large caps, which is top, you could say, top 10, top 20 coins on CoinGecko in the market, where we see large buy-ups happening. Yeah. Then the money flow again changes. Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin, and large caps are going parabolic. Yeah. Although everyone's making a lot of money at the moment, I'm not sure whether we've kind of actually reached that phase yet. And it says, regardless of market cap, some altcoins with strong fundamentals are having pumps. And then phase four, alt season, large caps have gone full vertical and we're seeing blow off tops, which will be like the literally top of the market. Mid caps, low caps, micro caps. When we talk about caps, it's really just about the size of the coin in relation to the rest of the market. They all tend to pump around the same time. Large caps have been outperforming Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it seems like every coin is going parabolic regardless of its fundamentals. And its fundamentals are, how good it is, how good of a project it is, how good the team is, all this good stuff. And memes are everywhere. Are they at the moment? I'm not sure. Everyone is super excited, and you feel the mania in the air. So you could say we're there already, but I'd also argue we're not there yet because we're still here. I think, for Ethereum potentially, and we haven't seen things like Polkadot or other bigger market caps. They haven't made their moves yet. Cardano hasn't made a move. Polkadot hasn't made a move. Name anything else in that top 10. They're all moving, but they haven't gone parabolic yet. Yeah, and parabolic means like 5x, 8x, those sort of numbers for top 20, 30 coins. I'll stop sharing that.
Oh, Richard, can you just share that again so I can screen grab it and post it in the group? Just 2 seconds.
Yeah. Join into Telegram group.
I'll throw it into Telegram right now because I've just said the image is below.
Okay. There you go. Do you want? I've written all over it though.
That's fine. It just gives people an idea. Okay, let's just go to the questions. I want to come back to the fees thing. Trisha was asking about fees. So I just want to see where we're at with everything else. Tisha says hello. Andy asked for a session about staking, what it is and how to go about it, what platform to use, minimum investment. Okay, so that'll be a really good one to just, it's quite a big one. In fact, we were meant to cover that a few weeks ago, but we ended up, the whole conversation was on technology. So we'll cover that again. Andrea, Richard sent that. Letitia, is there any reason why we should care about this alt season? Good question. And Richard says, Richard Almeida says, so Richard mentioned alt season is around 40 days and we are roughly 7 days in. We have all this month to make the most of alt season. What do you mean when you say they haven't made their move? Okay, so let's just finish expanding on this alt thing. Letitia says, is there a reason we should care about this alt season? The answer, like anything to care with, is going to be down to why would you care? And I'm not to throw it back on you, but like, I don't know. Let's imagine someone is only interested in making massive gains in their portfolio every week. I'm just making that up. Then they're going to be they will really care about this alt season, because when we're in alt season, that's where the gains are being made. Let's say that someone else only cares about Bitcoin. Then they're going to care about when alt season is, not because they're interested in alt season, but because they're interested in where alt season fits into the bigger cycle. So it's like taking a journey from A to D. I'm not bothered about C necessarily, but it's nice to know that you're at C because D comes next. So there's different reasons why you would care about this alt season. I hold altcoins. Some of them I really love. And so I am interested if I'm in alt season. And I hope that kind of answers the question. Richard Almeida asks about alt season being 40 days. We're 7 days in. We have all this month to make the most of alt season. I missed that. Richard Flanagan, can you just re-express why you consider alt season to only be 40 days?
I can try and dig something out again that kind of demonstrates it. I think when you kind of know that you are definitely in alt season, and when the top is, and when it starts coming back down again, that's it's historically, when you look at the charts, it's historically been 40 days. I think what Richard was referring to is, I think it said at some point, has alt season started yet? And that's what we don't really know, so I think maybe he's referring to the fact, well, maybe we can ask him, but I think maybe referring to the fact that we said Ethereum started, moving, other altcoins have started moving in the last week a lot harder. So maybe that's where the 7 days thing came from. I'll try and find that.
That, as well as the BTC dominance, obviously is hit below, that market point. And when it hit below that, as well as the Ethereum is pushing, because they're talking it could potentially hit 4K Ethereum coming up, couldn't it? So, it's still, even though it's still pushing, is alt season, do you think from your perspective, do you think alt season has really started or not? If it has, then it looks like we're about a week already, but if not, are we still waiting kind of for it to sort of launch?
Excuse me. But I think the last time I checked this Bitcoin dominance chart, we'd only just literally broken 50% dominance. So I don't know how long it's been down there for. I can't see. There we go.
I'm having a look now.
Okay. So 50, it broke 29th of April, basically, by the looks of it.
Yeah,
and
so a week ago.
And then it went back up again and then came back down. But it looks like it's on a downward trend now when you look at that chart.
Yeah. And it's been on a pretty strong downward trend since January.
So you can see
this whole year.
You can literally see it going, can't you?
It had quite a long consolidation period, just so that I'm not going to share, but on that chart, if you look at it, you can see it its peak dominance was in January, started this year at 72%. Then fairly quickly, it dropped down to like mid 60s, and it stayed at mid 60s from February all the way to beginning of April. And since the beginning of April, we have had a fairly ski slope, black line descend all the way down, and it's currently not showing signs of stopping. I mean, what's that? Minus 32. What does that mean? 32% change? I don't know what minus 32% means, but we're looking at a minus 2% drop a day at the minute. And there's a nice little video in there that says use this chart to predict alt season. It's got a nice little 6-minute video. So okay. Richard, does that kind of help? That I mean, there's all sorts of schools of thoughts with this on terms of how long things last for and everything. I wasn't aware of the 40 days thing.
I'll try and
but
find
again,
that.
it's a nice piece of information to learn about. And also the last thing Richard asks is, what do you mean when you say they haven't made their move?
In respect to the altcoin, so you mentioned Polkadot and Cardano, obviously the big two that you mentioned, but Richard, you mentioned that they haven't made the move yet since with Ethereum's still in motion. So what did you mean by that?
I think Polkadot's been on a sort of a steady rise since it launched, whatever it was, some point last year, on its proper launch. And it did a steady climb up to, what is it, $35, $40 or whatever it is. But it's stuck there for a while. If you use that one as a particular example, and it hasn't really sort of jumped massively. It hasn't had its, along with everything else that's kind of happening at the moment, it hasn't really sort of jumped. I mean, Cardano's had a pretty steady rise. I mean, you could say it's kind of 10x. But I think, that potentially could be a, some people are saying $5 easy. Some people are saying 8. Some people are saying 10 on this cycle. So if you just take that maths, it's still got a 7 or 8x in it, potentially. So it's a similar story with with a lot of these bigger coins, where they have gone up, but they've gone up in line with Bitcoin, and as Bitcoin flips and the dominance flips, then altcoin season, if it's just beginning, you have to take that into consideration. It is just beginning, so we're not anywhere near. So does that answer your question? I mean, I don't know if you want to answer.
That's a bit more. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Cool. No worries. So let's have a couple of people that have joined us. We've got Neil with us as well. Thank you, Neil, for joining us also. So we're going to come back to Trisha's question. For anyone that has just joined, it's an open call, so you can kind of post whatever questions you want in the chat. It's probably the easiest place to put them for now. But Trisha wants a conversation on how do you look at fees and how do you calculate to trade coins? So we're doing, well, before I open that up, Trisha, are you okay just taking 30 seconds, a minute, and just expanding on that a little bit more so we can cover all the different points that are in it, because there's a few different angles to that question.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, I actually just transferred money using Binance, and then I was looking into the fees of when I was transferring the money, and oh, my battery is just low. I got to plug my phone in.
Do you mean transferring fiat money from your bank account, or do you mean transferring a crypto coin away from Binance?
So I did things that I don't even. It was complicated because I was using CoinSmart to transfer it's very complicated to transfer into fiat, or from fiat currency into. I did XLM because the fees were the lowest. Like, I looked at how much it was, and it was the lowest. So I transferred into there. And then from there, I wanted to get out of CoinSmart. So I transferred into Binance because it was the easiest place for me to transfer into. Because I had problems using Coin, which one was that? Which one was the one that you had recommended to me, Daniel? And I couldn't because I didn't have a Canadian phone number. So anyways, I was able to use Binance. Crypto.com, right? I couldn't use that. So I used Binance. And then when I was in Binance, I was figuring out from XLM to put it into the different coins that I wanted to transfer it into, and then to figure out the fees. And I couldn't really figure out the fees. I wasn't sure, so I just transferred it. But I was actually a little bit lost in that regard.
Okay, cool. So let's just break that down a little bit so that people are aware. First of all, in crypto, fees are unavoidable. And depends on what country you're in. Like if you're in the UK, we're not really used to financial fees. You know, if we have to send a particularly international payment, there may be a fee. For British banks are really good. There's very few fees from British banks. You go to another country like America, as an example, and fees are just fairly standard. You want to withdraw your money from a cash machine and get different deals. But in crypto, there's just fees. So my simple brain breaks it down into 3 types of fees. A fee to move from fiat into crypto. So we call that an onboarding fee. You have a fee to trade. And I just want to, Tricia, I just want to bring your awareness to the words trade and transfer. So to trade a coin means within a platform, within an exchange, I take coin A and I want to sell it into coin B. So I'm trading my marbles for stones, whatever. And they're trades. Then the next fees you'll incur is a transfer fee. That means I'm sending my marbles out of this exchange into a different exchange or a wallet. So we have an onboarding fee, trading fees, transferring fees. And if we break them all down, for the most part, onboarding fees, you'll pay anywhere from 1% to 5%. I would say that's fairly standard. Depends on what deal you've got. I send money from my bank into crypto.com. So I'm pushing the money because I'm logging into my bank and sending it, and I don't pay a single penny. But I have another client who has a particular bank account, and for them to send money from their American bank account into crypto.com, they have to pay a fee, like $5 set fee. But by and large, if you're sending money, it should be free or the cheapest. This is with a KYC exchange where they know who you are. When we move into the middle bit here, trading fees, every exchange is different and they will make it very clear what their trading fees are. Coinbase is some of the highest. Crypto.com's fairly good, not the best. I would say it's the same as Binance. Maybe Binance is a bit cheaper, but I've seen as low as like a quarter of a percent, so 0.025%, all the way up to 1%. So then they're going to charge you a cut on every transaction. And I used KuCoin the other day, and I did 5 trades, and that cost me the best part of $40. Now I'm not too sure, and I was only trading a couple of grand, I think at best. And I remember thinking that's quite a lot actually, but I haven't done the sums on it, and it's just part and parcel. Generally speaking, I trust sites like KuCoin and Binance. I've once looked at the trading fees, and they're so similar. It's such a competitive market that I deemed it to not be something I need to be concerned about. What you need to look at is when you transfer out. When you transfer out, you will always incur a network fee. That is the fee set by the network. So Ethereum is the one that everyone talks about. And Ethereum has a gas fee that fluctuates depending on how many people, the more people that are using the network, the higher the fee. And the fees can be as high as, I mean, I've seen $1,000 fee. So you could try and move $10 and it will cost you $1,000. Last week was the lowest I've seen in a while, and I saw $6. So the price changes. It's a set fee. Doesn't matter how much you're moving. But an exchange will charge a network fee and an exchange fee. Sometimes they'll just roll them up. So for example, I absolutely know that KuCoin charges $20 to move Ethereum, to transfer Ethereum out. $20. I've never seen it go up. I've never seen it go down. They probably set that, and they'll sometimes make money and they'll sometimes lose money. Binance will show you a network fee and will show you the exchange fee. And these standard sort of sites have fairly good prices. When you start using, there is a Canadian site that either Tricia or Letitia told me about. In fact, it was Letitia, and they wanted to charge us something like $100 to move something. And when I looked into that, that looked like an exchange fee. So they really hit you hard for you to not take your money out of their site. Because obviously if you're keeping your money in their site, they can make more money. So, so every site's different, but they're the three places you'll have fees. If you're using an obscure site that most people don't know about, I'd probably say the fees are high. If I had to give a sweeping statement of fees. But you may, and I'm thinking of Tricia here, the particular site that you've been using gives you something in exchange. And what it gives you in exchange is anonymity. Is that correct?
Like the CoinSmart?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain when I've looked at CoinSmart with you that when you're doing a trade, you're buying directly off people.
Yes,
and
that is true.
So
and you have to be very careful because you can get ripped off. I mean,
of course you can.
Yeah,
because you think you're buying a good, you think you're buying a good rate, but unless you've checked it, you don't know you're buying a good rate.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to, on CoinSmart, you have to talk to one of the people that give service, and they'll help you to purchase something that's a better rate. Because if you just do it on your own, it's very, very sketchy.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So, but in that instance, there's only three things in crypto. You've got convenience, convenience, which is ease of use, price, and privacy. And if you want convenience, you're probably going to sacrifice one of these two. If you want privacy, you're probably going to sacrifice one of these two. So you can't have all three at maximum. So if you're using something like CoinSmart, you may just have to accept whatever fees it's got, because in exchange, what you're getting is complete anonymity. And it might be quite easy to use. There's other sites that can offer you anonymity, but you might not find them as easy to use. So it's always a balance between these things. And someone said something really good the other day that I've used a few times now this week, and I'm going to keep it as my mantra. Bitcoin is called a proof of work system. That means the way that Bitcoin validates itself is through lots of machines doing lots of work. You could argue that crypto and your success in crypto is a proof of work system. And what that means is the amount of work, time, effort, energy you're willing to put into crypto. And I don't just mean research, I mean setting up exchanges in the right way, learning how to use them, storing your passwords and your seed phrases securely, managing that whole ecosystem, staking your money, earning interest, whatever it is you want to do. The more effort and time you're willing to put into that will be directly related to the size of your portfolio and the financial stability and sovereignty you'll have in a few years. If you kind of don't want to do much, I just want to put it there and, you know, not really think about it or anything, that will have an impact in some way. And so when you're looking at all these, I'm going back to convenience, price, and privacy. If you kind of can't be bothered, you're not looking too much, and you just want the convenience, and that's what you'll get. Because unfortunately, the deeper you go into crypto, it becomes complex very fast. And as much as me and Richard have a mantra of keeping it simple, simple is a relative term to awareness and technical ability and intellect and all these different things. Crypto just by and large gets really complex really easily, and most people can't be bothered getting past a certain point. So it's even when you're looking at fees and everything, it's a mixture of all of these things and acceptance at the same time. Just mute that. Does that kind of help to answer? So if you're trading, meaning I'm trading every day, every week, you absolutely need to look at fees. I'm running a little trading program at the minute, and I think my coins are up, but I'm trading on such a small amount that my fees were more money than how much the coins are up. So therefore I'm down. So that's weekly trading. So I don't really think about fees because I don't trade. But if you answered the word trade in there, you might have just meant to exchange. But if you are trading, you absolutely need to use a site that has low fees.
Okay.
Cool. I hope that answers. Is that good enough answer, Trish?
I think it's a little bit more in depth what I'm wanting to know, but maybe that's something that I have to do aside from this platform here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can't give you the answer. If you're wanting to use a particular platform, then you just go type that platform's name in Google and just type the word fees.
Yeah.
They'll have a table of fees. There's nothing. Everyone's transparent with it.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you what their charge or anything like that. If you're using a particular site, have a look. But they'll have a fee to trade, and they'll have a fee to transfer out.
Yes.
And they're very different. And if it's ERC20, if it's on the Ethereum network, then it could even fluctuate quite wildly as well.
Okay.
For transferring out. Okay. So Neil's posted a question in the chat. What are your thoughts on the Fed or any other central bank, and we'll expand this as well to government, outlawing Bitcoin, such as Ray Dalio suggested? So before we fully open that, we just need to double check that everyone knows who Ray Dalio is and what he said, and then we can answer the question. Anyone here besides Richard know who Ray Dalio is? Beth, was that your hand up or just rubbing your head? No. All right. No takers for who Ray Dalio is. All right. Ray Dalio is, I think I'm correct in saying, the most successful trader on the planet. But how does that differ from Warren Buffett?
He's the most successful hedge fund. I don't know actually. I don't think Warren Buffett is the most successful long term. I think Ray Dalio was given the best returns for investors over time. I think that's right.
Either way, he's like the daddy of investing in general, especially more accepted than maybe like Warren Buffett, who has some pretty strong views on things. And Ray Dalio talks about these different seasons, and he also talks about having a portfolio that can weather different times.
Yeah.
And there is something about hedge funds. He runs a hedge fund, whereas Warren Buffett owns Berkshire Hathaway, which is private.
Ray Dalio's is Bridgewater. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can put your money into Bridgewater, and they'll trade it in a fund. Whereas I think Berkshire Hathaway, I can buy shares in a company, but that's it. I think it's a private company. So that's who Ray Dalio is. He is definitely someone to listen to. And he wrote a book called Principles, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's a life book. It's just one of these books that I have a lot of time and respect for Ray Dalio. I don't have as much time and respect for Warren Buffett. I have some respect for him, but I definitely don't agree with a lot of things. But Ray Dalio, I think, is a really cool guy. So what did he say recently?
I'd also say, though, he is one of those people that in last year was saying Bitcoin is a bubble, Bitcoin's going to die, Bitcoin's going to get banned, and he changed his tune in December. And he's been making more and more noises about it and saying it's actually got its place in a portfolio now. So he is one of the people in the last not even 12 months has gone from being anti-Bitcoin to saying you need to have Bitcoin in your portfolio. So he's had a complete, switcheroo in his view, basically, because, I think it was, who was the guy that was the first guy to come out? What was his name? Last year.
Come out in terms of
as a Bitcoin buyer, for his hedge fund, I can't remember who it was. I'll have a look in a sec. But as soon as
and he put like 1% in, didn't he?
Everyone else started following, basically, and it was just a and this is where we are now, basically, because of where he started it.
Peter Schiff is not the answer to that question, Letitia. I can tell you that. Peter Schiff is like the antichrist of crypto. Yeah, he's massively against BTC. If I'm honest, Peter Schiff's digging himself into a grave. Okay, he's keeping his stake, but the chance of him being right, he's really making his stand, but he's become so passionate about his anti-BTC that it's crazy. Richard was talking about who hadn't said anything, and basically recently came out this year and said, actually, I've been secretly buying Bitcoin. Beth, Neil's raised his hand. Neil, is that, do you want to speak, Neil, just before we carry on with answering your question? If you do, unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, like you said, I think definitely have a lot of respect for Ray Dalio. I think not only is he one of the best traders of all time, I think he really has a good way of analyzing future, past and future and present kind of markets and cycles. But I think my concern, I guess, and this is what, because ultimately we're
Darn gosh, scanned it. Oh, no.